Great. So let's see if we have any questions. As usual, I have a hard time seeing the chats or Q&A that are popping up. Anybody have any questions off the top of their head? This is your time right now. This is where we can speak freely about the proposal for both EOC or Talent Search. I think we have a poll going on. I don't know if you got a chance to find out, Donna, who's on board with us so far, Talent Search versus EOC. Thank you. So if you could respond to let us know. I think we always tend to have more talent search folks because it makes sense. We do have more talent search projects out there than we'd have, a lot more than we have EOC. So that makes sense. Again, this is your time. We're off the clock. We're on lunch break. If you're, depending on your time zone, you may want to make up this hour later, but remember that when you're on federal time, you can't work on federal funding while you're on getting paid out of federal funds. So we want to make sure there's a specific clear cut difference. And so right now is your time during the workday, which is during our lunch break or a break where we can talk and ask any questions. So please let me know if you have any questions at all. You can do it anonymously through the Q&A. Which we prefer through the Q&A. I mean, but you can choose to be anonymous, or you could choose to put your name out there. That's fine. I also wanted to briefly mention the groups that we have going on here on our website. You can become a member free of charge from NEC. We do not charge any fee. We do ask people to be members so then you can get on our mailing list, our blog list, things like that, and also participate in most of our groups. We have a group set up here, used to be called a forum or like a listserv, I guess. And Donna, you can see my screen, right? I am sharing here. Okay, great. Let me know if there's a problem here. But we do have a couple of hidden closed groups, and that's for anybody who was part of our talent search and also our EOC proposal writing competition. So we have things that we post there for them, trying to get in touch. Like if the minute I hear something that is important, I'll put it here rather than try to get in touch with everybody individually. Then we've got some open things here. If y'all become free members, you can post any questions here about anything across the board for General Trio. Then for those that are part of our courses, our professional development courses, and also have attended a professional development live session, they have their closed group as well. And then we have one for Upward Bound. And we also have a lot of other groups, I believe, listed here. So, we're trying to, here's something that we posted in the talent search competition one. Anytime that folks send me or I find an article with some national comparison data that I think will be helpful, I go ahead and upload it here rather than try to send it to everybody individually. So we're starting to become more active. We also have, a Dear Lisa question, kind of Dear Abby questions in our General Trio question. This is an open group where we post some real life questions that we've received throughout the years, a lot of common ones, and there will be running a list of common, questions there. So if you have a question here, we'll post something out there that we've been asked before, but here's where you can come and ask questions as well. And then for the SSS professional development folks, here's something about some pitfalls, and this is actually from Dr. Teresa, which we were like, the minute I saw this, Teresa, I was like, oh, this would be great to post there. And also a way to get in touch with her with the services that she offers. And she's able to offer brand new SSS programs. So anyway, for example, we have some questions here and that sort of deal here. So we're hoping that you all will participate. We've got a poll going on here. What's your biggest challenge when writing proposals? If you just want to let us know, there's no right or wrong answer. Go ahead and answer that, and please, and then we'll get get your response or share those responses later. But just wanted to go over some of the groups, some of the paid for features, and a lot of the free features that we have at any time. We're really trying to get this up and running this year. So if you have any questions, you can always email us, but you could also go here and ask in your General Trio questions. Okay. So any questions so far here? Anything in Q&A? Otherwise, I will go ahead and take it into another direction here.
We do have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Teresa.
All right. So the first question is at the COE annual conference, there was a breakout with Department of Ed officials. They mentioned that they are looking for a detailed budget narrative with who, what, where, why, and how. It sounded like they wanted this narrative as a separate document, not just a few sentences at the bottom of each budget section. Do you have any guidance on this?
I do have some guidance on that. Let me share a sample budget, and I get what they're saying because I lost points, Teresa, a couple of cycles ago because I put field trips for participants, and I think I put 5 field trips, and I put $15,000. I can't believe I did that, but I did that, and then they took a point away. They said there wasn't enough a breakdown, and yes, you're absolutely right. They want to know a breakdown, and let me see if I can show you an example of a breakdown. Now, this, I'm going to go into, let's see, my other Google, the other one I was sharing. You should see the other Google Drive. And again, this is something that I will share with you. I can't give you direct access to it because folks have paid for this. But what I can share with you is an example of, actually, you know what? We have a budget in the EOC Lunch and Learn. So I'm going back to the Lunch and Learn here. And let me move this over here. I'm going to go into Talent Search, and I believe we have a budget here. Okay, so budget, let me open this up. And yes, our biggest challenge is finding the data. Absolutely right. Getting started is a close second. Yes. Okay, so you all can see this Excel budget, Teresa. Can they see the Excel budget?
Yes. Mhm.
All right. So notice here in the Excel budget that not only do we break down, and again, this is very similar to the Word version. We just convert, we end up converting this to a Word document, or, or take the numbers here, but we always do it on Excel first because, just fine tuning it, things like that. The last thing we do is put this in a very similar Word version. But other than that, it looks pretty much like this, where we combine the breakdown of the staff, the time and effort for how many months. And if you're split, you want to make sure that you say at 50%. We put the salaries here. We break it down to see how the project tutors, how much they're getting paid per hour for how many hours a week, for how many weeks. And then here, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. And I'm starting with, the staff breakdown. You can see that. And you all have access to this budget, by the way. There's also one for EOC. And so I go ahead and basically read the math or read the personnel structure to the reader, just in case I have a reader versus someone who likes to view. Then on the fringe benefits, remember, if it's more than 20%, which everybody has more than 20%, you want to show a breakdown of what adds up to the more than 20%. Right? And read it here. Now to ask your question about the trips. So I'm going to go to participant travel here. So participant travel here, college field trips, 4 trips per 1,000 per trip for 25 participants each for $40. And I would expand upon this and include, say that this includes any meals, admission fees, things like that. But I believe moving forward, they're going to want you in the proposal. Actually, I think they might have been speaking to on an annual basis. I don't know if you want to clarify that, because I know the big deal was getting your budgets approved annually. And they want to know where you're going on these trips, because they are really looking to see about entertainment versus academic programming. So they're going to analyze those. Now, if you, in your proposal budget, state college field trips, and if you want to put in parentheses what colleges you plan on attending, in parentheses, that's fine. But I think there's a difference, Teresa, what they were clarified, or wrong. But when I heard about that conversation, it sounded like more of not in the proposal, but on an annual basis. What I'm showing you is a proposal budget, which is very different from a budget narrative on an annual basis. Yeah, I believe so. So I can also show you the difference. In a annual budget, I do list and break down the trips, the 4 trips location that I want to go to. And I believe they're going to want to know in the narrative here, a planned when you plan on doing it, fall, spring, summer. Sometimes things happen, you can't do it exactly when, but that's what they want to see. They want to know how many students, and I believe they're going to want you to include a narrative as to, in your annual budget, as to how students are selected to attend. Okay, so again, this might be a question that's more about the annual approval when you get your GAN versus in the proposal. Okay, but to answer both questions, it just maybe more detail here in the narrative. So, and also it depends on your program specialist. Some program specialists don't give you a template and whatever you turn in. And some of my program specialists in the past have been fine with this converted to a PDF where they get the numbers with the narrative right underneath. And then sometimes I've worked with clients where they say, no, 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 you got to use my format. I want one spreadsheet looking thing with just the numbers and a separate narrative. So you really need to work with what template that they want you to utilize. If there's not a template, I always start with something like this. And of course, this is not a proposal annual budget, but on a lot of our annual budgets, there may be another column here that says carryover.
Mhm.
And so that's where I start putting that information as to what I want. And then I write here, please note, we're requesting a certain amount in carryover. Teresa, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, well, basically, what you provided here, it does tell the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Is for the, I guess, the first time you submit your budget to your program officer. But of course, there are going to be a little bit more details, like exactly where you plan to go on your field trips and things of that sort. So you're just being more detailed. So yes, that's good.
So there is a difference. So if you're asking on an annual basis, I start with this format, but my narrative, and I might include some more lines here, possibly in parentheses with just, a couple of colleges or here in the narrative. I try to combine it. Teresa, I don't know if you prefer to separate it, but I prefer to put it together so it flows where here's the category with the numbers and then here's a narrative underneath. That's just
Yeah, it depends. Like I think that I think my program officer gave me one of my program officers ended up giving me a format, and I just started using that format because with all of them, and nobody said anything different. But this is where I started, and it was pretty thorough. And if they have a question, they'll reach out to you. It's no big deal. They will let you know what they want.
I tell you what, if you can't make it and you just want to sign up or go to our YouTube channel, and we will have a Google Drive when we have our budget management, that will focus completely on year to year approval. And we will be sharing a more detailed example with the details that we feel that they want to see. And again, it's only speculation in the sense that some of these program officers may want their own format. So we're doing a recommended format that looks similar to this, but has more detail and more questions about the carryover than you would in a proposal budget. Because in a proposal budget, you don't have any carryover. Okay. Right. So thank you, Teresa, for that. And so anyway, hopefully that gives you guidance. This is proposal looking at what you have access to right now. And during our budget management webinar coming up on the 14th, we'll be sharing some more a detailed version of this that would be an annual budget that would answer the who, what, and where in more detail. But I do think they're cracking down specifically on student travel, whether you're upward bound or talent search. And someone is telling them to check that stuff out. So we will need to be more detailed than ever on our annual budgets. Please explain how to obtain the objective benchmark for GED high school completion, admissions, and financial and enrollment regarding inquiries. Does Clearinghouse have this data? So this is an EOC question, I'm pretty sure, Teresa, on how we would get the baseline for objective A, B, C, and D for the adult population. Do you have any? I probably have some information, but I'm going to ask you, Teresa, if you have any information.
And I will share that there is a document in the shared drive specifically for EOC and Talent Search in your individual folders that does give you some guidance on where you could potentially find some of the baseline information. But as far as the benchmark is concerned, for the GED in high school, well, for each of these, there's a certain percentage. So the benchmark would be what you're trying to achieve and the baseline would be where you start. So what you're trying to achieve, it really, so the clearinghouse would be one place to get some of this information, but I think I'm going to go ahead and defer to the document that Lisa has posted because it'll give you more details about each of these that are listed.
Right. So if you're talking about EOC here, and the first question or the first part of it's pretty much talking about show us after the low income, the number of low income families,
Oh,
right?
baseline.
Yeah,
They're talking about baseline EOC.
yeah, baseline at EOC. So then they want to know about, where do you show that there's a high need for further education and training? So this is some places where you can start to get the national and state and hopefully work your way back to see how you can get it locally for your specific target area, which always starts with what is your target area? Is it the whole city, the whole county, or parts of a city? Okay. So then you kind of have to research to say, where can I go to get a good assessment or some feedback about what's going on here in the target area to show that there's a high need for further education and training. Then when we look at these other sites initially to give you national and state, then you can hopefully work your way back to getting some target area information. So there's some socioeconomic issues there because in EOC, it's all about tell me how bad the target area is doing economically and also with some academic issues. But then when we get to the issue here about national statistics, you can't. So you have to imply these figures suggest that a significant portion of young adults pursue higher education. So again, this is the national, they say 39% of adults aged 18 to 24 were enrolled. So trying to figure out the completion rates here as well, you can go to these sites and try to funnel it for that age or those indicators. But I tell you what, and again, this is to get, I'm sorry, the benchmark information, right? Like the comparison data, and here's another one for national college admissions application here. So check these out to give you that comparison data. All right. Some of them right here about that. Okay. But then when you get your target area, and here's some resources veteran, but to get for your target area, you're going to have to go to your either workforce centers or your GED centers and start talking to them now and get them as experts, a collection of the directors or folks that are working as GED directors of a program or on your campus if there's a department that does this, to get their assessment, their feedback as to in this target area, what is the percentage of your GED adults that would fill out an application form for admissions or college admissions. Definitely for the first objective, Teresa, right, on how many of them get a GED and how quickly. Is it within 18 months, within 12 months? What percentage would you say? So if Teresa was the director of a GED center that I work with, I would ask for her expertise. Where can I go to this information? Or can we go ahead and use your expert opinion as to the folks that you work with here in this target area? What would you say is the percentage of adults who get their GED or go back to high school? They've got to know. They've got to know because they're under reports as well, and they may have some additional resources. And if I can go ahead and say that according to a discussion or according to GED directors, this is the rate it is in the target area, then that's as good as it's going to get. And it's a lot better than just coming up with basing it off a national benchmark. You have to compare it to the national benchmark, and hopefully the target area is showing that there's more of a need. Teresa, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but it's really, really tough. I think for EOC has believe it or not, I think the EOC needs section is the hardest section to pull data for.
Yes, I agree. And that GED explanation, that is probably the best that you're going to be able to get, unless unless they have a dashboard in your state that you're able to access, or your area of the state. And then for high school, definitely go to the website. Oh yeah, there it goes. Go to the website relate for your school district. And or there may be a lot of states have data to show high school completion rates at the state. It compares the state, then the state, the local, the county, in different levels. And if not, then definitely getting the high school completion rate for your school system would actually suffice there.
You know, this website here would have the national and probably state data, or this one here, the National Center for Education Statistics. Your first step in EOC is to find the national and state data for those, the comparison data for, I mean, or the national or state data for what's going on in for objective A on the high school graduation or GED graduation of adults, you know, and also for the percentage of admissions and financial aid. Again, you might have to fine tune that and get for your target area local professionals, experts to give you the target area, the baseline. But the first step, and to make you feel better, like you're moving ahead, is to try to find the national rates for those four objectives, and then work your way backwards. Okay.
Definitely.
It's time consuming, and that's why you want to do it now. You want to do it now. You don't want to wait till the RFP comes out and then start, well, I'll wait until then. No, now is the time calmly to try to find, you know, to find the national rates, and then try to figure out who has, or who can I quote to say this is what's going on here. You may have to talk to 3 or 4 different GD people or program heads in your target area and average that out. And the source would be, you know, discussions or interviews or data collected from local GED directors. Luckily, and I don't think this is going to change, they don't say what source you have to utilize. Okay. So you may have to do your own collection of data, because it's not going to be on a website anywhere. Your best chance is hopefully having something on the national rate or state level. Then you got to find stuff that makes your target area look like it's hurting compared to the state and national rates. Okay. All right. So we talked about that, and that's tough. I mean, that's the hardest thing we have to do in EOC. The rest of the grant, we could probably crank out in a weekend. It's that need section data collection. We have to know people. We have to talk to people. We have to get out of the office. Can't make a phone call, look at a website. You got to talk to people face to face. Great question. Thank you. Is a new budget template available? Not sure what you mean by new budget template available, but the budget categories stay the same. In the Google Drive right now, you have a proposal budget that I shared with you. You should plug in whatever you're getting, whatever your GAN said you're getting for 25, 26, plug it in as your total amount, and then start adding your what you have to pay people, what your fringe is going to be. And we have all the categories there that will be asked for. There's not going to be any new categories. There's not any new money. So there's no new template. The only thing that we might have different or more detailed is when we talk about our budget management seminar. And we'll talk about how to stress certain things in that annual budget request. So, you know, that'll be the difference there. But you can go ahead and start using both the EOC and in the Talent Search Lunch and Learn Google Drive. We have the templates there for you ready to start plugging in your 26, 27 numbers, which should be the same salary wise, or the same total budget as you're getting for 25, 26. I don't see any other increase that will happen to existing programs. Okay. Should we consider carryover? No, you should not consider any carryover moving forward. These proposal budgets that are in the Google Drive for the Lunch and Learn do not have a column for carryover, because there will not be any carryover. You're not allowed to carry over into the new funding cycle. So that's where reality is going to hit, because a lot of us have been living off of carryover, right? You know, we have all this money from the first year, then the second year, then the third year, because we didn't have staff and all for whatever reason. And now when you work on this budget for 26, 27 for the proposal budget, you don't have that extra money. You have to make everything balance. And that's where people are going to be like, oh, wow, I haven't had to do this in a while. Yep. So that's going to be fun doing that. So you don't consider carryover in that. So let me see here. And then, yeah, for 25, 26 year 5, you might be talking about your annual budget. Again, what I've shared is specific to the proposal. The categories are the same. it's just in your real budget from year to year in Talent Search and EOC, you may have another column listed out there for carryover. And depending on your program officer, if they give you a template, you may have to use their template, and they're all over the place too. I mean, some of them say they want it separate. Some of them that said, oh, I don't want carryover listed at all. I want a separate budget for your, what's on your GAN, the regular, what your base amount, and a separate one for carryover. That's fun too. So it all depends. So hopefully you won't get anything like that. But in the past, it's been all over the place, right? Do we have any questions here? Talent Search Center approximately 4 years as a template. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of and some people have attended something for SSS, if you were part of that, then you received a template for that as well. There's different preferences, and sometimes I'll see a template that doesn't match up with the way it should be. And I try to slide in the correction there. So hopefully moving forward, everyone will be systematic and will request the same type of budget template. Okay, so sometimes people have told me, clients, oh, I couldn't use your template at all. I mean, I used it to get me the numbers and the narrative, then I had to copy and paste into the format they wanted, or they wanted two budgets, one for, our regular GAN and one just for the carryover. Okay, hate to say that, it all depends, but it all depends. Any other questions in the chat or anything like that? And again, the template that they sent out, could have changed, or just see what they're, things are so different from even a year ago. The categories haven't changed. There's categories like modified total direct costs, which people in some colleges are still getting used to. That's where you add up all your total costs, and then you have to deduct student travel from that before you charge it to the 8%. And we'll talk about those things in our, just a reminder, in our budget management webinar to remind folks about that. But the categories are the same. It's the format or the detail that they're asking for has probably changed. Okay, so thanks for this question about EOC. I'm going to turn that off. Any other questions? Is there a Talent Search data list in the shared drive? There sure is. Let me go ahead and, that's what you're going to ask me, right, Teresa?
Yes.
All right, so again, in the Lunch and Learn, just letting you know, here's a tour of that. And I think, yes, folks have been Donna's been putting a link to this drive. You all have access to this at any time. We have a lot of resources that are both for Talent Search and EOC listed here: tips, overview of the executive order, trigger words. I've told you all to go through and your old proposal and clean out those phrases that need to be changed. Use EOC eligible and use Talent Search eligible instead of disadvantaged, or instead of low income first generation. Switch over to Talent Search eligible, EOC eligible. Okay. Then for EOC, you've got these items here listed here. You've got the old instructions, just like you do in Talent Search. Then you have, just letting you know of the agenda that we had for our grant writing workshop. You've got that budget I just shared. You've got an actual technical review form with that shares some things that were taken, points that were taken off that we put into a spreadsheet that I'm going to share with you. But you have that, or I believe it's a blank form, or I think it's an actual form, a resource list. We have some need section support quotes, some sample of that, and then a timeline. And the same thing we have in Talent Search here. We have in Talent Search, we have a sample technical review form. We have the budget. We have our agenda. We have some websites that are specific to Talent Search, pulling that data. I just uploaded this a little while ago. Problems and issues faced by homeless and foster care youth narrative. I was realizing that we had very little narrative in the needs sections last competition about this, and they're going to be looking for this. So it doesn't matter if you only have a handful of these students, these types of students at your target schools. You still need to speak to the problems and issues they're facing, because the question specifically asks for that. So I would take points off if you didn't talk about it, even though it may not be a big part of your population. You need to talk to your target school folks and say, of the few homeless or of the foster care youth that attend this target school, what are the problems and issues you see them facing and get them to talk. And so there, you'll find some sample quotes there, or sample things that you and I would read and say, yeah, that makes sense, but we need to get them to say that. Then you have some other, student to counselor ratios, some needs section support quotes, sample quotes, and needs assessment there. And then again, you have some information about the new GEPA, which is very, very important this time around. This is the first time ever for Talent Search and EOC in over 30 years that this GEPA has to be customized to have some connection to the programming and objectives and identification, recruitment, selection plan we have for Talent Search and EOC. In the past, it was generic. It's whatever your college had in place for any Department of Education program. It was almost like a no-brainer. Where is it? Where's the GEPA? Where's the college's GEPA? Okay, here it is. Upload it, put it up there. Who's going to read it, right? They're reading it. In fact, we have some of our colleagues got canceled in Upward Bound, Talent Search, and SSS. I know of a EOC that was canceled, not because of anything that was written in their narrative back in 2021, but in their GEPA statement, it mentioned the word DEI and diversity training. In the GEPA statement that the college had for all the programs that were funded through the Department of Ed. So that GEPA is not only important that we've got to rewrite it anyway to make sure it matches and is specific to Talent Search versus generic, and also it doesn't include any of the trigger language. And so we put a couple of some trainings here about that, and I thought we had some information. And I thought we had a sample. Yeah, we have a sample SSS GEPA, which I better double check. I don't think it has anything that triggers, so I better check that. If Dawn, if you could remind me to double check that. And we have a Gear Up one. Now I know that one was scrubbed pretty well, just to give you an idea. So see, same institution, but they had to do a different one for Gear Up GEPA and a one for SSS. And again, if you're wanting to know, what it looks like, for example, let me pull up the Gear Up one. Can you all see this? Are you okay? Give me a thumbs up that you see the Word document. I never know what I'm sharing. Okay. All right. So there's 4 questions, but then, and you write it in Word, and then you copy and paste it online. Someone has to actually go copy and paste this on a form that gets uploaded. And so, describe your entity's existing mission. Okay, we can do that, but see, even the question itself, Teresa, has equitable access and participation, so you have to be careful there. And then what barriers, and they have to be specific to Talent Search and EOC. And then what will you do to identify that based on what are you going to do? And so they have to be specific, in this case, to Gear Up. And then the timeline for doing this, okay? And so that's just an example there. I don't know, Teresa, if you wanted to add any GEPA drama you've had so far, or if you had to rewrite a whole bunch of stuff.
No, we're updating them based on the fact that there were programs that were canceled because of their GEPA statement. We got that information, and so we're just updating them just to make sure that they don't have the trigger language in them. But outside of that, it's pretty straightforward. What you have there is a great example.
And we've been using that. We just have to customize it. Like we can have one for SSS, one for Gear Up, one for Talent Search, one for EOC. We can't anymore just have one for every single program. Yeah. One generic one. They have to be for each separate funding source, basically, or funding program or program application. So your Upward Bound and your Talent Search can look similar, but they have to actually be different, right? Here is sample MOUs and letters of commitment there listed as well, and some other resources here. So a lot of freebies here to get you going. What I'm going to do is, if we don't have any open questions, I'm going to start sharing some things that happened in the previous competition. I'll start with EOC. Now, this you do not have access to, because this spreadsheet is something that we share with our proposal writing clients and our proposal writing course attendees, or who've attended our grant writing workshops that have paid separately for this. They have access to the spreadsheet, but I'm going to show you We're recording, I believe. Yes, I'm going to show you in case. And I just have a few for EOC. I'll bring it up here. And this is a spreadsheet that we're utilizing. You guys, you can see the spreadsheet, right, Teresa?
Yes.
Okay, so let me open this up a little bit more. Sometimes it's awkward to read. I try to open it up separately, but here. So in the objective section, we had one client or somebody who shared, with us that, you could earn 8 points, but they only got 3 points. So why did they only get 3 points? Well, they lost points here because it said, although it may be attainable, the ambitiousness of 25% objective that participants served during the project year who did not have a secondary school diploma or its equivalent will receive a secondary diploma or its equivalent during that project year cannot be assessed. The applicant did not provide baseline data. So this ties in perfectly with that question that we got a second ago, Teresa, about where do you find the baseline for that objective on how many target area individuals receive a secondary school diploma or equivalent during the project year. So I think they talked about it, maybe shared national and state data, but they could never give 1% answer for the baseline. So in the objective section, I bet they lost points they didn't lose points in the needs section. See that, Teresa? Because this would have been from the same proposal and they would have told us. So sometimes you can skate by in the needs section and think you're okay. A good reader would have caught this in the needs section and said, hey, I'm taking 2 points off or 4 points off in the needs section because you never gave me the baseline. You talked around it, but I didn't see it there. And then I'm going to get you in the objective section too, because you didn't give me a baseline. The reader couldn't tell if when you were saying we're going to take it up to 25%, because you never told me what it was to begin with, 2 points off. And then about the financial aid application. Again, although it may be attainable, the ambitiousness of the objective that participants who are not already enrolled in post-secondary education program and who are high school seniors, high school grads, or have obtained a high school equivalency cannot be assessed. The applicant did not provide baseline data. So these folks got off a little easy, Teresa, because I bet they didn't provide it in the needs section either. And I would be looking for it. So they should have already known that there's possibly an issue there. So they should have gotten them there and also here as well. This is why that last question in the EOC needs section is usually where I have listed all my baselines for all 4 objectives right there. It's funny that we wouldn't have it listed in the first 3 questions, but the EOC needs section is tricky. They never come out and tell you, give me the baseline for A, B, C, and D. It's almost like a trick question. They're trying to see, are you going to give it to me? And I usually pick the last question to put it all there for the reader, because then they're about to start the objective section. So they just got through reading what my baselines are for the target area. So they can't, it's already fresh in their brain, but I'm also going to remind them of the baseline. So if you're writing for the very first time, either for a first or new grant, or it's your first time writing, sometimes the question, it's sneaky. They ask the question and they already know what kind of answer they're waiting to get, but they don't tell you, by the way, give me A, B, C, and D baseline. But we're telling you to give them that. Teresa, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, or if you've ever had an issue with that same thing.
No, that's the same. Yeah, there were times where we did lose a point for that reason, and we learned very quickly that we need to be consistent in both areas, the objectives and the needs section. And it could be, can you hear me?
Yeah.
And it could be that they had it in the needs section, but they didn't re-articulate it in the objective section as well.
That's true, Teresa. You're absolutely right. They could have mentioned it. I assume they didn't because they didn't bring it up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's an excellent point. You cannot assume the reader's going to remember. You almost have to write every section as though the section by itself will be read by somebody different than someone who read the needs section. Not that it will. I hope not. but you can't assume, oh, I told them. No, you got to bring it up. You got to bring it up again and said as previous or compared to, or just repeat yourself.
Yeah.
Right, Teresa, because it could have
Yeah.
been.
And my philosophy is just think about your grant being one of 10 grants that the peer reviewer is reading, and yours is the 10th one. So that
You
that's
want
that's how I operationalize my grants. Yep.
don't assume anything, be Captain Obvious and just spoon feed the reader. And don't say, as previously stated on page 3 of the needs section. Oh, I can't tell you how much I hate that. I'm like, you want me to go back to page 3?
Yeah.
It almost makes
Yeah.
me angry. Just tell me in parentheses what it was. Remind me. Don't make me go back. Don't make me look forward. Keep me in the moment, right here, focused.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
I do that. Real quick, those were the new standard GEPA questions. Yes. So in the GEPA folder, all those are the new questions that you all should start working on now. And it's not something that you're, well, yes, you need to, well, you both need to work on it. Before we could give it to our agency or institution to work on for us, but now you've got to take the lead on it and tie in what your institution can do. It's different now. Before they could write it for you, like the grants and contracts office would give it to me and say, oh, we got it. Oh, no. Well, give me what you have, but I'm going to have to put our spin on it. Because when you read the questions, they specifically speak to, specific programming activities or objectives you need to bring and customize. So you have to customize it. For Talent Search, one needs to look a little different than the Upward Bound one. And I think we're going to have a GEPA on that as well. A GEPA, a free webinar talking about just the GEPA. Okay, so you can start working on that right away. All right, so applicant and community support for EOC. All right, they could have gotten 16 points, but go back on here. See, look at this 8, what they were supposed to get. They only got 3. Okay, scary, right? And over here, 16 points, and they lost a point. Resources provide secured through written commitments from schools, community organizations, and others. Maximum point 8, they lost 1 point. The applicant does not provide information about commitment of resources from target area schools. So look at that. They were thinking, oh, we don't have any target schools. Okay, that's fine. But you probably could have talked about some GD centers that are and consider them schools, or Captain Obvious, say, we work with GD centers, or the project works with GD centers. So they should have mentioned that, or at least just because you don't go into the target schools doesn't mean that you can't mention that those schools will work with you to give you referrals of graduated students. So I don't know if you have another example of what they could have thrown in here to keep from losing a point. They just ignored it pretty much when I read the answer. They thought, oh, we're EOC. We don't have target schools. You see how that works? So the readers will look at the questions and literally will be looking for, well, they talked about community organizations and others, but they didn't talk anything about schools. So point taken off. What are you going to do? You can't argue with that. Okay. All right. So let me go to the Talent Search version. The time we have left. Let me see here. Any questions? Let me open this up here. And again, y'all don't have access to it right here. It's this. Don't be looking for this in the Google Drive. I'm sharing it with you. And again, we have quite a few here. So objectives, 8 points max, and they only got 4 points. All right. And here you will see, they said 70% of seniors served during the project year will graduate during the project with a regular diploma within the standard number of years. They're unable to assess this for ambitiousness and attainability due to the lack of appropriate baseline data specific to high school seniors in the targeted area or from targeted school attaining the regular diploma. They lost 2 points. I had to read this a couple of times. They lost 2 points, Teresa, because, and I had been doing this for the longest time, and I can't believe that I didn't lose more grants, because I was using the cohort graduation rate. I was telling the reader from 9th through 12th grade, this is the percentage. of students that graduated eventually with a regular diploma within the standard number of years. And I was okay in the needs section telling the reader that, even though I said this is the baseline, it wasn't actually the correct baseline, because when they got to the objective section, that's when they took points away. They said you didn't use, right, Teresa, if you want to, why do you think, Teresa?
Lisa, I used the same thing and I didn't lose points on it. So, again, I can't risk it anymore, knowing that other programs lost their points moving forward. It's a hard one because the graduation rates are like 99%. I'm being facetious, but some places they're like 99%. And it's just very difficult to put 100%.
Right. And so that's why we were using well, I wasn't even thinking, let me just pull it for my 12th graders, until I read this and I was like, oh my God, they're absolutely right. Because the baseline talent search folks for regular diploma and rigorous are all about just the 12th graders. So the readers are like, hey, why are you telling me the baseline is, from 9th to 12th grade? This is not compute, because your baseline is supposed to be of just the 12th graders from the fall of their senior year to the spring of their senior year.
Oh, I do that. I do only give the 12th grade cohort.
See?
No, it's still going to be the same. It's still going to be the same number, because if you just use pure graduation, that
Well,
number, depending
if
on
you
where
use
you are, is real high.
graduation, but if you use from 9th grade to 12th grade, it's much lower. See, I was giving
Correct.
them the
Correct.
cohort graduation rate, not the
I got
12th
you.
only, right?
I got you.
Right. So I was doing a multi-year, a whole cohort,
Yeah.
like the class of, and they were like, oh, no. It's for this year's seniors.
Right.
See the difference? And I tell you what, moving forward, this is going to get everybody moving forward. And the same thing for the rigorous. The rigorous should not be based on a cohort rate. It should just be on the 12th graders in 1 year, a 1-year rate.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So like Teresa was saying, it is super hard to show a need, because if we're going over a period of time, the rate drops because we lose students,
Yeah.
throughout the years. But just for not even a year, from fall to spring of their senior year. So this is where, Teresa, we've had to, this is where we have to, again, talk to the target folks directly and say, look, what about, what somebody told me that at one place, some of their students go to alternative schools and they get to graduate technically from the home school. So the graduation, from senior fall to senior spring looks better. But if they took out the students that actually left to graduate from the alternative school, they were showing a need.
Mhm.
Another client said, well, you know what, if we do it by GPA, how many 12th graders complete their senior year graduating with a 2.75 or higher, we were able to show a need, that kind of thing. So we may have to do that and take it another layer, because if we just leave it alone, like you said, Teresa, it'll be super high, we'll lose points. So we have nothing to lose but to add on another layer of rigor to make the numbers go down.
Yeah, that's right.
But you definitely want to make sure, talent search, that you use 12th grade only in one school year, not across several like I have been doing. I mean, you can still use it as in your needs section to state, look how it is for the cohort, but you can't use that cohort rate in your objective section because you could risk losing points. Then post-secondary degree, they lost points there because 17% they said, but the current rate is 15. And I didn't do this one because for some reason they said they were only going to go up 2 points. So they went from 15. I'm sorry, let's see. Yeah, the baseline was 15 and they said they're going to go up to 17. And so they were looking at, oh, there's just 2 percentage points difference. And we try to go, I would have probably said maybe like 25 to say a 10 percentage point increase. So they didn't think that was high enough. Okay. So there's also some things here in applicant and community support. This is one that I lost, Teresa, because I said on the letters of commitment, I said that we will have letters. It says the applicant indicates the commitments from target school district superintendents in the form of MOUs have yet to be documented. I didn't say that. I said we will get letters. I didn't use these words, Teresa. I just said simply letters of MOUs and letters of commitment will be obtained from the target school district superintendents. They're saying yet to be documented. Without such documentation, it's unclear whether these resources have actually been committed, and they were. I just said that we will get the letters. So basically lost 4 points because I also said that we will get letters of commitment from the following community agencies. And they were like, oh, you don't have them already? 4 points off, Teresa, for simply using future tense instead of present tense. That hurt. It didn't cost anybody their grant. Because I think, for some reason on the new ones that we had, the few new ones written the same way, they didn't catch it. They're tougher on the existing ones. I guess they figure, oh, you've got points, so let's try to, drain some of those points, right? And so again, this is just an example of things that you, in the past, 20, 25 years, writing these things, I never lost a point. And I've always been using the cohort, like for the objectives on the rigorous and regular. Now I'm not going to, and now I've got to think of other ways to bring that baseline down. So it's not 99 and 100%. Like the persistence is another issue there. And then also as simple as in your applicant and community support section, I've always for the last 25 years said letters of commitment will be on file, will be collected. No, I have to say they have been collected and they are currently on file right now in the project director's office. Okay, so that's just a couple of things there. There's some other things there, but we don't have time to go into that. And also you can, thanks, Teresa. Also, you can always, join our groups or actually join us for our grant writing workshop. Either the course, and you have access to a whole nother Google Drive that has specific more detailed information here if you want to be part of that. Okay, but I wanted to share that with you. This is being recorded, so if you ever want to go back and watch it. So let's see if we have any other questions. I don't think we have any other questions. Let's see, any chats. Anything else we wanted to cover? But I thought the proposals have to be written if you don't. Oh, okay, great question here. But I thought that proposals have to be written as if you don't already have a program. Well, you may be taking that a little too literal. What we meant by that is that you don't want to, let's rephrase that. You don't want to rewrite and answer or bring up to the reader every opportunity you can that, oh, we've been around. Like in the needs section, there's a need, but that's why we need to be here to continue to fix this problem. Don't bring that up. State the need and why there's still a need, and don't bring yourself into the mix. That's where we say write as though you're new, because if you were new, you wouldn't be tempted to even, oh, but we're here to help. Don't bring up that we're here to help in your needs section. Don't bring it up at all. That's what we mean. Don't bring it up at all. Don't be constantly, like in the objective section, say, why is it ambitious yet attainable? Oh, it's ambitious because of this, and it's attainable because we've done it for 20, 15 years. We've always met our objectives. And that's not what they want to hear. They want to hear what programming will take place. So that's why we say as though you're new. But everywhere else, like especially applicant community support section, you say we have this on file. You can go, but don't go overboard. Just say we have it on file. So there's a fine line, right? You don't want to say, oh, we have all the commitments. Someone once asked me, do I need to get commitments? I mean, we've been here for 20, 30 years. We don't need to get these letters of commitment. I said, oh yeah, you do. You need to say that you've got them in place. I used to say you need to say that you're going to get them. Now I'm like, no, you need to have them in place. The reader will know when they look at your budget and looking at your abstract or your abstract in the first sentence, depending on how much money you're asking for and how many students you're asking to serve, I can tell pretty quickly if you're an older established program or not. So there's no hiding it, but you definitely don't want to layer it on like we should be refunded because we've been here forever. No, you want to downplay that. Okay. You want to keep them guessing if they missed the abstract, and so really, if it's newer continuation, when I look at that applicant community support, it doesn't matter if you've been around 50 years or you're going for new funding. You better have those letters on file before you hit the submit button anyway, okay, in your office. So it will be true either way, okay? Thanks for that question. So you get the difference, okay? Don't hide it, but don't brag about it because it could actually annoy a reader or make them more wanting to, oh, really? Well, let me see about that, right? You never know. Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate y'all joining us. This recording will be ready sometime tomorrow. Look for a blog post. Thank you, Donna. Thanks, Teresa. She had to leave for another meeting. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you found this helpful. Check out that a lot of free resources. Okay, you don't have to attend our grant writing workshops. I wish you would. But a lot of resources we have there for you. Check out that GEPA. You can start working on that right away. Thank you so much. If you can go ahead and we'll stop the recording now. Y'all have a great week.